This is my favorite shit too. Like, this is the other side of the story. I think at this rate, the average liberal wine mom unironically reflects Bob Avakian's attitude on the Republican Party than most Twitter leftists do.
Was
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
You should be.
Bro, someone's auntie is out here saying like these are fascists that are ruining America and they must be dealt with. Meanwhile, the conversation that we're having in like left circles is like is so. I mean, I of course I condemn this liberal wine mom. I condemn this liberal wine mom, of course, but it's just
Ashamed of yourself.
Be ashamed of yourself.
Your friend just said she'd be happy if I died.
I think we need to. Whatever.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. She only started interviewing old people because they don't know she shit her pants. Yeah. Only one person in this vid had shit their pants and somehow it's not the old woman. True. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I condemn. Boomer Democrats in 2020. Bernie is too radical. We need someone moderate and electable like Biden. Boomer Dems in 2026. Yes. I'm telling you, man, that like it's not as well defined because American politics are like purposefully all over the place. Okay. But there is energy. There is momentum in this direction. And for us to not take advantage of this momentum is silly. It doesn't make any sense. To turn around and be like, well, some of these people are imperfect or some of these people are bad or whatever. Like some of these people are not, or even the best possible, like most left version that runs and actually wins office. It almost feels like some people just want to gatekeep that shit. You know, they want to gatekeep that shit where they're like, no, leftism is supposed to be this like gate-kept secret. What the no, once you reach a level of popularity, that means you've actually betrayed the revolutionary cause. It's like, dude, just keep pushing. Okay, just keep pushing. Just shh, it's okay. Just keep pushing. Keep pushing. That's all you got to do. Why is that so difficult? Take advantage. Recognize that these people are on your side. Give them the proper tools to understand why. Give them the proper tools to understand why they've been over. Because there is an internal strife within the Democratic Party, which I'm going to be addressing in a little bit. Right now, the consultant class within the Democratic infrastructure is desperately trying to go back to rebranding centrist third-way neoliberalism. They are actively trying to find a way not to look at why Kamala Harris lost seriously, not to conduct an actual autopsy and then push for social democratic policies, democratic socialist policies, push for more quote-unquote radical candidates, okay? And instead, they are focusing on how can we nullify the excitement. How can we hit the, how can we make sure that we temper this approach? How can we restructure third way neoliberalism in a way that these the boomers that want more, that demand more from their Democratic representatives will come to terms with it and will vote for us again and will vote for our centrist candidates again. Okay? Younger voters' worldview is limited to their algorithm and they mistake visibility for magnitude, believing their echo chamber reflects the world instead of just their feed. But online, in air quotes, leftists are a problem? No, they're not. They're not. And the reason why they're not is because they're utterly irrelevant. That's the reality, okay? Online leftists are utterly irrelevant. You know what's relevant? Leftists who are out there in the streets, okay? People who are taking a principled stance, who are trying to do their very best within the limited confines to go out and make changes that they want to see, okay? That's the reason why the reality outdoors, when I do these like IRL streams, is very different than what you see on the internet. That's it. That's the difference. All you've done the last 15 minutes is punch left, shaking my damn head. No, of course not. This is not punching left at all. This is not punching left at all. My point is, if you're in here and you sometimes feel discouraged by the way people present themselves and the way people yell at one another on the internet, not just on the left, but just in general, remember that the real world is very different. The real world is very different, and you can actually bring more people on board to this cause by taking principled stances and being more understanding of others. We are inundated by concerned trolls. I think half your problem is people are only half listening at any given moment. I know, but I think, you know, you half listen for 2x the time, and you're going to be fully listening by the end of it. You know, what is this? I don't hate you, but I can't stand your support for the DNC people like AOC. I don't think we should trust Hasan if he is friends with AOC. She's not our friend. She's a Democrat op. Don't be open-minded to Democrats. He doesn't push back on me. He ignores people like me. He will never interview someone to the left of Hasan. Now you punching down and left punch. Okay. I think there's a reason why you still find yourself here no matter what. And I think that reason is that deep down inside you understand that I'm with you, and that it's okay to have some disagreements on how to get there. You feel me? And then everybody goes, please address him. It's valid. All right. I feel discouraged by the left's constant engagement in capitalist politics and its dismissal of socialist politics. Okay. Some of you love China. Many of you love China. What's the best thing about Chinese development? Okay. I'm going to use China as an example. What is the best thing about Chinese development and Chinese socialism and the way that it has existed in the world? And there are still many issues, of course. It's not like China is devoid of any problems, whether it be on the international front or whether it be on its own domestic affairs. It's the pragmatism, okay? That's it. It's a reflection of the material realities and adjusting the goals in that direction, okay? Making incremental changes year over year that when looked at in a 20-year timeline, 30-year timeline, you recognize how far one can get, okay? And then people immediately go, China has a communist party, you propose bourgeois parties. My point always has been, work within the existing, like exhaust all options and work within the existing confines. In a country utterly devoid of class consciousness amongst the working class, where class consciousness only exists amongst the capital owning class, you have to adopt different techniques. You have to adopt different methods, okay? You have to focus on mechanisms of change that are readily available. If there is a weak, liberal, center-right, bourgeois party in the two major parties, and it's open for seizure, in the absence of a viable third-party alternative, then it is important to use that as your megaphone, okay? It is important to use that as your megaphone to get the word out to as many people as possible until the time is right. It is that simple. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't engage in advocacy and organizing beyond the two-party structure, okay? But simply hoping that this acceleration towards America's fascist demise will magically create a revolutionary movement from the ashes is incorrect. It's an incorrect theory of change. The way I see it, whether or not we're there, the Democrats across the board are already accelerating towards fascism because they are refusing to fight against the Trump administration. And in the process, they're harming people. They're allowing harm to continue. I've been reading the collection of Ho Chi Minh's writings from Verso books recently. In his earlier writings, he discusses working with the traders amongst the French colonists explicitly. But as the national liberation movement develops, he shifts his approach away from this method. It's not a moral shift either. He's constantly reiterating that tactics depend only on current conditions. Yes, that is precisely right. The only reason why you read former theorists and former successful and sometimes unsuccessful initiatives to develop socialism is to learn from those lessons and then take those lessons and adopt them to your current circumstances, your current material realities. That is, in my opinion, the best possible way to move forward. All the while, you exhaust all options. And it comes across as silly when people go, dude, I cannot believe you're like people were getting mad at me because I was bringing up Lenin while talking about not even necessarily like voting for Graham Plattner, because I wasn't even endorsing Graham Plattner, but in general, like making a broader point about exhausting the parliamentary structure or whatever the current structure is, right? which in our country is a duopoly, unfortunately. Like exhausting all options in the effort, exhausting all options in the direction of fomenting revolutionary sentiment amongst the masses. But in an effort to do so, you have to be where the masses are. And as far as it stands, at the heart of empire in the United States of America, the place where the Cold War was fought and won against socialism, the masses are liberal. They're self-described as liberal. So you have to work amongst the liberal masses and unlock their own revolutionary potential from that. Bro, they calling you the same as the horse guy now, a shit lib? Yeah, I don't care. They're calling me the hammer and sickle guys who refuse to engage with what I'm saying and refuse to offer any sort of viable alternatives will say I'm a shit lib, okay? And say I'm out of my element. Yes, this as well. But then they have no real viable mechanism for change whatsoever. They just want to chirp, and that's fine. The masses are liberal. Then how did Trump get elected, lol? Do you think that the Republican Party in the United States of America is not also liberal, at least a base of support? They are. A lot of you are operating with the American understanding of the term liberalism. I'm using the political theory of liberalism. The masses are liberal. That's precisely the reason why we have a center-right liberal party known as the Democratic Party. And we have a far-right reactionary party that is also liberal, but now moving in a post-liberal fascist direction known as the Republican Party. It is funny when people say, this is me out of my element, when this is my element. Even if there was a time where restructuring will shake things up so dramatically that there is even a necessity for a Marxist-Leninist vanguard or whatever that might look like when the time comes, what people don't understand is that that is not going to magically materialize. It is up to you to ensure that a left flank alternative growing within the Democratic Party is not a mechanism of sedation, but instead a mechanism of revolution. If you give up on these options, if you give up on these options that are readily available and say, it's not perfect, I have a different opinion, you will never be able to make the changes. But it's okay, because I think only time will show. Only time will show if it's successful or not. And I think many of you who have this cynicism will either realize that this was an appropriate measure at that moment in time, in this moment in time, and get on board, or you'll just continue pushing the left flank of the Democratic Party is how we get the revolution. No. That's not even what I'm saying. That's not even what I'm saying. I don't think the Democratic Party is going to become a working class party. I don't think it's going to become a workers' party. It has always been a bourgeois party. But the Democratic Party within our current duopoly is the most viable method of spreading the word, because I am of the mindset that if the third party alternative was there already, we would have at least some semblance of a mass movement. But in the United States of America, as it stands, we do not. Using Infantile to prove a point about Plattner or engaging with the Democratic Party isn't even the right piece to be making. The point is honestly better made by Kautsky's work or what is to be done by Lenin. Infantile was only in regards to Panakek rejecting parliamentary participation and even the formation of a workers' party in favor of communism via council. Yes, it was a more aggressive approach, but I think a lot of people who don't fancy themselves to be left comms do actually reflect left comm style politics. Like the notion that one day out of nowhere that there is going to be a magical death to capitalism due to its inevitable, due to its contradictions should not stop you from playing your part and ensuring that there is at least a base for this alternative restructuring to take place when the time comes. And in order to get there, you have to use every available opportunity, every available method. Yeah, I'm not an idealist. I'm a materialist. Hasan, it looks strongly to me like you've been pulled and assimilated into the capitalist propaganda machine. Incremental changes are how America got here. This is what I mean, by the way. Like you're out here. We got a former disgraced governor invoking my name actively because he perceives what we do here as a significant threat, so much so that he would rather try and take me out because he realizes he's not going to win the election. And you're over here saying that I've actually become an op to the socialist movement at a time when in the United States of America, socialism is receiving its highest marks. Okay? Like the last time this happened, when there was like a viable left alternative, a robust socialist movement, was pre-World War I. Okay? And we do not have the organizational capacity that we did before World War I. Socialists, communists, trade unionists, labor militancy in general is virtually non-existent still at this point. I need a lot of you to just wake up to the realities instead of isolating yourselves in increasingly more limited focus echo chambers. Why not capitalize on Zoran's momentum and build a new third party now? Because that's not enough, is my point. It's not there. We're not there yet. You're the one that's got to wake up, bro. Okay, man, you'll do it. I think if you think you aren't being used by the Democrats to make leftists think they have a guy representing them, I don't know what to tell you, man. Hasan defends Graham Plattner. Okay. I think your capacity to comprehend things is a little bit busted. But I think this is unproductive to consistently talk about, you know, your bad faith and uncharitable interpretations of things that I haven't even said. Unk has gone liberal while I, the enlightened communist, have been pushing the vanguard by typing in Twitch chat and being as annoying as possible. I will also say, at least in my experience, what I have seen is that time actually has the capacity, only time has the capacity to shift people's priorities and perspectives. That's it. A lot of people who have these sorts of concerns had these sorts of concerns years ago as well. It's something that I have heard time and time again. And yet you just got to keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing. And people will eventually realize that you might have been right. And if they don't, then they don't. Yeah, Melissa De Rosa. The crowd chants at Hochul, not with Hochul. Says tax the rich, tax the rich. Democrat advisor and strategist at Cornell Communications Advisory, Melissa De Rosa, says, in a crowd that includes Hasan Piker, a stadium filled with the most popular streamer on earth hates me and my cause. Feels like so many people here have absolutely no idea what the American left looked like before 2016. It's like these people would rather sit on Leftbook and hyperinsular Discord servers. No, they don't even know Leftbook. These people came after Leftbook. These people came after Bernie Sanders. You understand that, right? A lot of the people in this community started self-identifying as socialists because of Bernie Sanders. Okay? And even after Bernie Sanders. So they don't know how dark things were in 2013. And the same goes for Palestine as well. This is precisely the reason why I look to that issue in spite of all of the violence and see a lot of hope for a better future. Okay? Because I know how things used to look like in the Western world, especially before October 7 for Palestinians. People just didn't know what it was. People didn't care about it. There was only one position that was available in every different ideological tendency in this country. Liberals, conservatives, all the way to progressives and leftists themselves. They all just said, no, Israel is the most moral country on the planet. But a lot of people post October 7, once they started realizing that Israel wasn't this beautiful island of democracy and queer liberty or whatever, surrounded by scary Muslims, and that it was actually an ethno-nationalist apartheid that was engaging in a genocide, and they learned about the history of Palestinian emancipation, some did, okay, and their attitude changed, they started taking for granted how many people were like-minded, okay? If you come from that background, if you recognize how shitty things used to be, okay? How shitty things used to be, you will realize that moving the needle in the socialist direction, no matter how incremental it may seem, is actually working just fine. It's not fast enough. But unfortunately, that's just not how change works. Okay? That's it. But that is the reason why I always keep my head down, and I hope you guys can too, and keep pushing no matter what. It's like these people would rather sit on Republican hyperinsular discourse servers forever because it makes them feel comfy. Saying the word socialism used to be a death sentence in American politics. I know. But a lot of people don't realize that. Like for the last like 40 years, 50 years, it was not even a question. Okay? This is the country that openly flaunted the First Amendment and yet still has laws in the books that make it illegal to be a communist and organize as a communist. And many Americans don't even know that reality. They've simply heard about the Red Scare and have not looked further into it. They don't understand how reactionary this country was, how antagonistic the people of this country have been, how propagandized the people of this country have been towards socialism, Marxism, leftism of any sort. Yeah. And if you look at the Gallup polls like this, image of capitalism slips to 54% in the United States of America. Okay. Trend in Americans' positive ratings of capitalism and socialism. Capitalism is at 2010 and in 2010 is at 61% approval, down to 54% approval. But this is all Americans, by the way. Socialism at 36% approval, up to 39% approval by 2025. And you think to yourself, okay, well, that's not great. Except when you look at actually the places, the political associations that are, albeit limited, once again, we have the three brackets, the Republicans, Independents, and the Democrats, right? If you look at those three brackets, you see bigger shifts on the Democrat side. So to cast aside the people that are more likely to be your allies of this sort, when it's actually working to say, well, change, much broader change is a necessity right now, and therefore I'm going to cast aside people that are more likely to be on your side instead of trying to talk to them and move them in a more, move them in a direction that is more open-minded to your worldview. I think that comes across as unserious. Democrats in 2010, 50% approval, 50% positive image of socialism. In 2025, it's up to 66%. Now, it's not far enough. Independents at 36%, now at 38%. Highest was at 41% in 2019. Okay? 65% in 2019. For Democrats, 66% at its highest approval now in 2025. You have to factor in how propagandized Americans are when you look at this stuff. The same goes for Israel as well, right? In spite of the unimaginable, unlimited faucet of propaganda that declares Israel to be a objective good, a force for good in the region, Americans came to their own conclusions on Israel in spite of the mainstream media pressure, in spite of the advocacy groups pressuring people, in spite of criminal charges being brought towards those who stood strong and defended the truth, that Palestinians were worthy, Palestinian lives were worthy of dignity, and that their emancipatory movement was just. That's the reason why I say there's a major shift happening, and that's positive. It's a good thing. Left accelerationists will see any type of reform as a bad thing because they believe it makes people more complacent and comfortable and less likely to start a revolution. Some people will just always oppose what you do no matter what because they think advocating for things like universal health care is protecting capital. I know. The interesting part about this is that I understand that. As far as welfare, like as far as the Marxist tendency that looks at welfare as a lifeline for capitalism to continue, it's correct. It's not wrong. Okay? This is not incorrect. It is correct. Because in the absence of a robust welfare state, capitalism was slated to self-destruct. This is true. Having said that, you have to work within what we already have. You have to work within what is readily available, especially in a country like the United States of America that has never had as successful of a socialist movement or a tradition or a background, and that even the limited amount of success that socialists have seen here have been actively eviscerated from the American collective consciousness through a faucet of anti-socialist propaganda. That universal whole care be paid for the blood of the third world that's colonized. You end this only by getting rid of capitalism is a social chauvinist position. It unironically reminds me of Trots when I hear stuff like that. I know that people will say, how dare you? How dare you bring this up? How dare you bring up this this major division? You're actually a Stalinist if you believe this. But it does. It reminds me of like the permanent revolution rather than where you can get it and how you can do it. Okay? It's just, and I've described this position. I have described my position and my methods and what my goal is to Bad Empanada, ironically, when we had that conversation on Noah Samson's show, where I said, this is not about pacifying a revolutionary movement in the United States of America, but instead, it's about moving the needle in the direction where, at the very least, the United States of America gets out of the way of places that have viable revolutionary movements in the global South. Because if you believe that the labor aristocracy is ultimately going to cause workers in the United States of America to say, well, I'm actually comfortable with my position now, we should continue imperial super profits as long as they're redistributed amongst the working class of Americans better, okay? That obviously is not going to be the end point, but we are much closer to scaling back on endless imperialism around the world at that stage than where we're at now. And while we have this back and forth on what must be done or what the different methods are, the American empire moves in the direction that it was going to move in regardless of our back and forth. Has this kind of sectarian infighting actually created a robust response to endless American warfare? No, it has not. Things have only gotten worse. Things have only gotten worse. That's why I always urge the rank and filers in here to make a big fuss in their own unions to ensure that they play a formative role in the anti-war movement in general. No matter what we say and do here, we are still incredibly marginal. Okay, there is perhaps a reason why many of the more radical on paper leftists are relegated to Discord servers and YouTube channels and podcasts, and they have very little influence in the ways in which the American political project moves.